let's go live.
Okay.
Alrighty. We are. Wait, but. Okay, so now we're. I'm so confused. It's got us at like 5 minutes and 49 seconds on a timer now.
What?
Oh, if you're with us, we are experiencing real issues.
Am I looking at the wrong? I mean, I see.
We are.
Oh,
We
oh.
apologize for the cuss words that just came out.
I
I
mean,
do.
I have this as being a brand new video.
It, is it a brand new video? Oh, jeez. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. All right. All right. Good grief. So, hi.
Hi.
I'm Sandy.
And I am Chloe. And this is a late and kind of mess up episode of WordStitch.
Yeah, which we did the first hour of, but I have totally messed up. There it could be like this is a sign from the universe. My computer's giving me blue screens of death. It's just shutting down. My stream's bad. If you're not with us, basically, like we thought streaming, but I am not competent enough to press the live button, we think. And so you haven't seen any of it.
We're not sure what happened. But again, you had that blue screen right before everything started. So I'm just going to blame everything on your computer this time. And we are going to move on with the topic at hand, but without any writing this time because we've kind of weirdly lost our writing. I don't know what we're doing.
It's the end of the year. Let's
Yeah.
talk about our subject. So let's go
Yeah.
back to the beginning. So we were going to talk about like the finances of being an indie writer, and I think Chloe made a really good caveat in the very beginning, which is that we are not on the same budgets, right? Like we sort of represent two spectrums. So let's I'll let you make the point. You did better at it anyway to begin with.
Oh gosh, I can never say the same thing twice.
Oh,
But that's okay. I'm going to say the same thing twice. Okay, so we are talking about like the do's and don'ts of the financial end of writing, as we've gone through the last year. And the thing is that as Sandy pointed out, we come at it from two different financial standpoints where I am on a very tight budget and Sandy has more flexibility in her budget. So she can spend money with less. No, okay. The way I'm going to say it is that I have less freedom to like get all of those things that the big they, tell you have to spend money on. Whereas Sandy is coming at it from a perspective where she can decide for herself if she wants to spend that money or not. So I'm doing things as bare as I can, and Sandy can make better.
I mean,
She doesn't have to worry as much with her decisions.
Though, this is actually a really good point that we should talk about because I read a really good article on this the other day when I was Googling something.
I like how I said it so completely differently that we're now like on a different tangent. Keep going.
We will go back to our good. Now we have an hour of freedom, guys. If you're watching, we're not gonna virtually write. We're just gonna tell you about money today because it's an important subject. And also because we messed up. I messed up. Chloe doesn't mess this up. When there's a problem, it's me. But okay,
I forget the timer.
So I think. So I read this article the other day about where, like, how writers become successful. And the article made a really good point that a lot of times a successful author talks about how they just, like, worked really hard or something. And, like as if they, like, came up on a shoestring budget. Now, like, Chloe is going to be representative of the shoestring budget. So, like, we are hoping she does amazing. I will be representative of somebody who puts an investment of money into a business, like a fairly significant amount. But I think it's important to know that, like, later on, if I'm successful, it wasn't because I just like didn't put money in. I have a husband who works like a decent job, and is sort of my patron. And I don't think we're honest enough about this stuff. Like we think that we can have all the things without the money. Well, there are some sacrifices that get made. It does affect what you're able to do. Your genre affects what you're able to do. Like, I don't know if you could do young adult on a shoestring budget. I think it would be really, really hard.
It would be, I would have to be a lot more creative with it.
Like a lot more
We'll,
creative and a lot
we'll
more
do it that way.
social on media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like, I would have to work very different from how I am working.
It would be massive. So
Yeah.
those things, I mean, that's all a very large difference. It's not, I mean, like with my erotic romance type stuff, like I'm not spending nearly the money as I am on my young adult stuff, which is, you put it when we weren't live, is sort of like more like a flagship novel, like every year, or maybe like one little series, but it's not like putting out a book every 6 months, 6 weeks. That is my dog, because that is the way of the universe right now.
Yes.
How about I go close that door and
Please don't close that door.
yeah, let's do that and not make this worse.
We're gonna go ahead and like keep going with what we've been discussing, but we're gonna go back right quick and do I believe we started with what we thought was the best investment
Yes.
that we did this year.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So,
You go ahead. You go ahead.
okay. So I'm just going to summarize this slightly because I think that's fair, because we actually both agreed that for where we personally had put our money, the money best spent. And it's funny because this was not where I thought I was going to take this conversation, but we both went to the same place. The cover art.
Yep.
Because we do judge books by their covers. So Sandy had said for like actually buying a cover, which this is for her YA stuff. This is stuff that she's putting out one a year, if that. Where it really needs to like lead. Oh no, that's right, because you're doing your novellas.
I am.
More quickly, and you are paying for those, but you're on 2 different pay scales.
Yes, I am on multiple pay scales. It's a really good point, and actually, that's useful to think about. For my YA, for like the epic YA sci-fi fantasy that needs to compete in the mainstream, that's gonna like struggle, like. I had to get a real cover designer, one who charged me like several $100s for a really great cover, because my book needs to look like that. For my novellas, which are like teen sci-fi romance, and only need to compete with like the Academy stuff. I have a great cover designer. She's not doing as much of like the design, I think, by hand, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So her pricing is significantly
She's photoshopping more than she's hand drawing things.
Yes, she's doing like what you and I, what you are doing.
She's doing a beautiful job photoshopping, but it's all digital. It's not. Yeah, she's not starting from scratch.
It's significantly less like sort of little effects that that somebody dreams up out of their. Yeah, so great job, but like a different scale, and that's more like $100 a cover. And then for like the ones that we do on our own, like my romance, I was with you, Chloe, except that we did do that on different pay scales too. Like I'm far more willing to buy a picture on Shutterstock or to buy a font.
Oh. Yeah, so that's where we were a little bit different on this. The reason why this is a big thing for me isn't necessarily that it's the money I think was best spent, so much as it was the money that it was hardest for me to spend, but with like the best payoff for that. For the actual like best money spent, we'd be going to more like nitty gritty things like newsletter and stuff like that. But for the actual like what was hardest for me to spend, and then like once I spent that money, I was totally happy spending that money again and again and again, was on the photos from Shutterstock, getting good quality photos to build my covers off of, as opposed to before I had been attempting to use the free sites, which there are nice photos on the free sites, It just was a lot more work, and I was having to. They weren't quite what I wanted them to be.
Yeah. So we agree that covers are super super important. They need to look great. You can do them yourself if you have that ability, but you're probably going to need to at least buy a couple of good like
Mm-hmm.
stock photos. You can hire them, and like the range there. So I mean you could really spend anywhere from like $10 to like $500, and you'd have to look at your genre. I think we also both agreed that if we had extra money, we'd spend it on marketing, which is another way of saying
Yeah,
the covers are
that was where
important.
we discovered everything had fallen apart. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But so, okay, so
Yeah.
should we talk about how like what we wouldn't spend money on? Because
Yeah.
you had a really good one to begin with.
Yeah. Um, the thing, and again, this is the reason that I'm pointing this one out is because there are so many other authors out there. I feel like most of the people that I hear this from are not necessarily even like well published authors. And I feel like there's that trap where it's kind of the blind leading the blind. Um, but if you are an indie author, probably the like biggest expense with the least payoff is ISBNs. And this is because ISBNs really, the only thing that you are going to get out of them is the ability to be sold at a local bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're selling on Amazon, you don't need ISBNs. If you are selling through Smashwords, you don't need them. If you're selling through Draft to Digital, I believe you do not need them. Anywhere that you are selling digitally, you do not need them. And if you are getting them printed but still selling them online through Amazon, you do not need them. They are also incredibly expensive, to the tune of a single one is, I think, over $100, right? Isn't it like 120 or something like that?
I think so, like
Yeah,
125 or something. Yeah.
yeah. So like you can buy that lot of them. That's like 500 or 100 for $500. Um, which is also kind of a crazy, I don't know. I've never really looked too hard into ISBNs to understand the pricing of them. But at the end of the day, as a new author, unless there is some very specific reason you are trying to get into local bookstores, and you think that you have a very good shot of getting into local bookstores, um, it's probably not a worthwhile investment at the beginning of your career at all,
Yeah,
because that's
yeah.
the only place you need them. Again, it's just that like you're not going to get any more sales off of Amazon for having your own ISBN.
Right. So, like, if you were in romance, sci fi, fantasy, thriller, probably any like genre fiction except for young adult, middle grade, and children's, then you're not likely to make that much money in an independent bookstore anyways,
Yeah.
and like that's not where your main marketing is going to be. So, and you're not going to get in Barnes and Noble as an indie to begin with either. So I think that's totally right. Like I would never buy. I'm not willing to buy ISBNs for my for like my paranormal romance at all. That's
Yeah.
such a waste of money. But so like okay, so this is another so this is again where like budgets depend on what you're doing. So like since I'm trying to write young adult, if you want to sell a children's book or a teen book or a middle grade book, the kids need their hands on it, which means you actually do you could potentially do a significant amount of your marketing locally, and you need hardcover
Yeah.
books. And most independent bookstores are not willing to purchase your book from Amazon because Amazon is their biggest competitor. So they're going to require you to get your book from Ingram Spark. And that means that they are going to require you to have an ISBN of your own because that's what Ingram will require. So I think you made a good point, Chloe, that like you don't have to buy that right away. Like you might be able to get away with giving your independent bookstore like a I don't know, maybe an ebook or something as a tester, maybe an Amazon proof. You could risk offending them, but you kind of feel that out a little bit.
Feel
Ultimately,
like, I do also feel like this is something where you have to build a relationship with them to begin with. Like you cannot
yeah,
just walk into an indie bookstore and expect them to
Well,
look at it necessarily. Like, I feel like
actually,
it's a battle.
it is, but so
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing too. It's a reason that covers are important. So like most of the independent bookstores I've looked at, they will look at your book, but it needs to look like the same kind of books that like they're stocking.
Yeah.
So that's where like you're not going to be able to get like you cannot pull a picture from Pixabay and turn it into your young adult cover.
Yeah.
Um, you're not going to be able to get away with free fonts. So like these kinds of things are going to significantly matter for your independent bookstore, and then they're also going to want to read the book. So it has to be up to a certain quality standard. So yeah, like I think there is, I mean, like for sure you're gonna have to go in person. You
Yeah.
may not have to like schmooze with the owner, but like this is not the same as online marketing. So anyways, but the point is, I totally agree. Like
Yeah.
mostly it's not, and really I kind of feel like it's very rare to try to be a young adult or a children's author and do indie publishing. Like
Yes.
it's not that
Yeah.
normal.
That's also a bit of my thought process behind it as well. Is that you're already kind of in a wonky battle.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
for me, indie publishing in YA has become a bit of like I'm not going to get traditionally published. I think it's going to be very hard for me for
Yeah.
various like sort of socioeconomic cultural reasons that make it so I'm just not interesting enough as an author. Like I can't, my thing is never going to be able to be an own voice, which is fine, right? But what I can be is an entrepreneur. So like if I want to be in YA, I have to. I was thinking about this the other day. I can't just be in YA. I have to literally build my own publishing company, which is part of like this difference in budget too. So like, I can't even just be a writerpreneur. I have to have a whole freaking LLC and
Yeah.
like ISBNs and a publishing imprint and a really expensive cover design team at this point. You know, like I. so so all of this is it's a huge difference, and I think if
Yeah.
you're not in that boat, and most people aren't, then don't buy those isbens. Do we want more on the isbens, or should we do the editing bit next?
No, we should go on to
Editing.
editing, onto
Yeah.
your way to spend money.
Okay, all right. So mine is like again, so it is of course a cardinal sin not to have your book edited unless you talk to us, in which case we might think actually that's totally wrong. So I think that it's important for authors to have copy editing somehow. Like
Yeah.
ideally you should have a copy editor, or you should be really good at that stuff yourself. But
Oh,
developmental
but not just
editing,
yourself. You should not do it yourself ever.
I mean, ideally, I have, and I've gotten
Yeah,
away with it.
we both, I feel like, kind of regretted it slightly.
No, weirdly, my best one so far, nobody has like looked at, except for like what one person later. I don't know what that
I
says.
definitely
Terrible
like the
things.
things that I did not have anybody else look at before I put out. Like 2 months later, I looked at them again and cringed at the typos in it.
I must have been. I was having like an awful month when I wrote. I don't know what happened. It was a fluke. Okay, like let's not use that as an example. Yes,
Yeah,
I agree. Like
yeah,
generally speaking, you need another set of eyes on your
yeah,
stuff, or at least you have to be really freaking good at copy. But like developmental editing is an entirely different thing. So I think that when like it just hurts me inside when I hear that somebody spent like thousands of dollars paying a developmental editor to make their story better or something, because all I can think is, oh, like developmental editors should be like for the professionals who are already making six figures and
yeah,
as you put it earlier, want to hand over a rough draft and get it made into a book. They're not for people like us where we should be getting beta partners and critique partners and like your readers should tell you if your story is decent.
yeah.
We're just like,
And I think, something that I don't think I said it quite, at least how I meant it before. But like the thing is that like if you are new, I'm sorry. But this is coming from the perspective of somebody who is fairly new and is like just starting to get to that point where I'm like, yes, everything that I'm doing is perfectly fine and I keep doing this and this is a valid thing for me to do. If you are new, you really have no idea if your stuff is good or not. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but that's literally everybody out there. You have no idea if your stuff is good or not until it has been tested. So it's insane. And like I've seen this so many times, and so have you, Sandy,
Yep.
where like things are absolutely awful, and you know that that author spent thousands of dollars on their awful novel, getting it developmentally edited and you know, their covers and all of that. And and at the end of the day, like your developmental editor is going to tell you what to do to make it better, but if it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah.
So do yourselves a favor and get some stuff under your belt and like make sure that like this is actually going to work for you before you start spending money on things that you can, you know, you can
Yeah.
bargain for free, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh God, I agree with that. I think that's why fan fiction is so good. I think you are right. We have no idea, and we don't know if we're good either, right? So
Yeah.
like I've always wanted to write stories. It was not until fan fiction that I thought my stories were worthwhile. Like I just thought I was maybe kind of like sort of playing a little.
Yeah.
Not that somebody would actually want to read any of it. But I think it goes two ways, right? Like you could be like me and be like, oh yeah, no, this is like I write, but like let's not admit it. Or you could be like, I'm a writer and think you're amazing. and if you're
Yeah.
and if nobody ever reads your stuff, then you have no clues. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it sucks, but like the other side of that is that like even those of us I probably shouldn't say those of us, but those of us who are
Decent.
good and
Okay.
proven, and
Are we proven? I don't
I
know if we
don't know,
are.
that's why I felt bad about saying
Yeah.
us, but we've all had less than glorious starts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Always.
yeah, I come from flash fiction, which I was pretty solid with. I'm not like when I say that I came from there, I'm not saying that I was bad in that, but like when I started on novels, I had absolutely no control over my diction whatsoever, and that's something that I actually always struggle with. I
Interesting.
I use big words when I probably shouldn't because I write smut. But I initially started as like um post-apocalyptic dystopian. Um
Nice.
yeah, and like I feel like those stories were the plots and the characters and all of that were solid, but I wrote them as a lit fic writer. Um,
Oh.
yeah, and again,
Oh.
it's because I was coming off of flash fiction where you know, again, like each word is analyzed to make sure it's absolutely the best word to go into that spot. And so you kind of get into like the dark realms of vocabulary. So, anyways, I know we're going off on a bit of a tangent because that is what I'm notorious for. But to that end, like when you're starting out, you really need to have like don't piss away a whole bunch of money. It hurts a lot more being told that your book is bad when it's you spent a whole lot of money on it. And just because your first book is bad doesn't mean that your second book is going to be bad or that there's no room for improvement. So yeah, just in the beginning, developmental editors are not a good investment because you can go through beta readers for free and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that is so funny. Lit fit dystopia to post apocalyptic.
Yeah,
I can.
craziness. Looking back on it now, also it had, you know, I write deep third. I was
Mm-hmm.
writing deep third then, and it was like 23 different people.
Oh.
I mean, I feel like because it's third, it works. You know, obviously that would never be pulled off with first. I think it still read okay from it, but again, the fact that it was fantasy and also deep third on 23 people was not a good combination.
It takes a while to develop these. I mean, if I'm going back to when I'm like 22 or 23 and trying to write, I wrote legit bad. Like
Yeah.
not like, oh, like I just think this is a hobby and maybe someone will read it and it'll be okay. No, 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 no. I just wrote
Yeah.
poorly. Like I could have written a legal memo and my fiction would have sounded like a legal memo and it would have been awful. Awful. So yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree. I think you I mean those beta readers, but so again, so developmental editor, do not pay
Yeah.
somebody
Wait
to
until
turn
you're
your
established to start spending that kind of money.
no, because it's so much better to like just write another novel, right?
Yeah.
Or write another story, or like just get better by like doing more as opposed to like because I think that's something we also haven't said. You know, like you could think you're great and not be that great, but like that doesn't mean you couldn't become great.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I tried to say it, but I got really convoluted in the
No, no,
end.
no, it's fine. But the most important point is here: you should not pay somebody to try to make you great earlier like that because it's just not
Yeah.
going to work. I have another question for us.
Yes.
Okay, so what are the things, especially, so this is a shoestring budget question. What do you absolutely have to spend money on? Like, what can't you get out of?
Oh, so like technically I spent zero on A Christmas Demon for Clara. So like for the book itself, there's nothing that you can't do for free if you are able to do, your own book covers and stuff like that. The
So the production was zero.
Yes.
Okay.
The absolute so for like each book, so like I've got a spreadsheet that I have it broken down into how much I spend on each book and then also how much I spend on overhead.
Yeah.
So this is absolutely then an overhead question, which we haven't I kind of brushed on it before, but that was where I had expected that initial question to go. And then we didn't go there. We went on production. So for overhead, you can pretty much do most of that for free as well. But, oh, okay. So the one thing that you absolutely cannot do for free, and you must do early on for reasons that we'll get to, you have to buy your domain name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. That's
you don't have a
smart.
choice on that. And the reason you don't have a choice on that, I have a website that is basically dead right now. It is what it is. I don't have time to take care of it, and I'm trying to get all these books written in one day. I plan to have a lovely website, but I'm just not there yet. So it'd be really easy on the surface to say that that was not money that I needed to spend. The problem is that if I don't time things properly and I do try to wait to buy that and I don't time it properly, there is a whole industry out there based on buying keyword domains in order to sell them for way more expensive than they are worth. And they will absolutely go to Amazon and see who all the best sellers are and go way down that list and find authors who have not bought their domain names and buy those to force that author to spend thousands of dollars to get their
Oh.
own name.
Oh, that'd be terrible because those are cheap too. They're like $12 a
Yeah,
year or something.
yeah, but this is that like crazy SEO culture. This is like one of the really ugly um
Huh.
side effects of that is
Wow.
yeah. And the thing is that when you buy it, if I remember correctly, you do have the option of buying similar names as well,
Hmm.
at fairly cheap or free. I don't remember exactly how that worked, but like you can like get your .com and your .net and your for me it's good to have both Chloe Alice Balkan and also Chloe Balkan, and then just have them all redirect to the same place.
Yeah.
But
Good idea.
I would say, is the thing that was absolutely the most crucial, had to do it. And then if I'm going for a second thing in that list, depending on how you're doing your marketing, you're probably going to have to pony up for your newsletter fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's so I agree with you on the domain, and I mean I don't know if websites are totally critical. There's a lot you can do for free with like Gmail and Twitter and Facebook and stuff, but the domain name. But I would have said like it will, if you're doing it right, you'll need MailerLite pretty
Yeah.
fast, and to get MailerLite pretty fast, I also think that like BookFunnel is worth the
Right.
expense.
So the reason that the reason that it took me so long to come up with the website was because I was also debating about the newsletter and the book funnel. Newsletter I put second because that just like automatically happens with time because you get it free up until like 1,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. And just like once you hit 1,000, you got to pay for it, and that's life. Um, so that's why I kind of put it on the second. The reason I put book funnel third is because if you are so incredibly poor that you have to pick between two of the three, I feel like I
Sorry.
phrased that really awful, and I'm sorry, but like, when you're winging it, if you are on that tight of a budget that you can only buy two of the three, book funnel, you do have the option of getting it for free and manually exporting. And it's a nightmare, but you can do it. You're not cut off from anything with book funnel. If you don't pay for it, your life is just a lot more difficult if you're successful on BookFunnel if you don't pay for it.
So this is another place where then like it kind of like we diverge a little in terms of like what we're willing to pay for, because so you could theoretically get subscribers from BookFunnel, Prolific Works, and Story Origin.
Yes,
Story Origin is free, but
yes.
Prolific Works is for sure not. And BookFunnel is a little limited. So like Prolific Works, I found was the best place to get subscribers before you had anybody. And then as soon as you have a few, then BookFunnel becomes better. And that's important because Prolific Works is like way more expensive than BookFunnel.
Yes. I've not paid for Prolific Works.
Don't.
I've only paid for BookFunnel for
Yeah.
exactly that reason. Yeah.
And I think I don't think you need you don't need it. You just don't need it. And Story Origin is a great alternative. So like you could always.
Yeah. Story Origin is building up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to be free forever. So like jump on that train as soon as you can.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they can keep something like that free forever. But I'm in a promotion that's starting in a couple of days.
On Story Origin.
I actually got a review out of that one already. That was that one.
Nice.
Yeah, so I do endorse Story Origin as a free alternative to BookFunnel, and I forgot about that, but that's another reason that BookFunnel is lower on the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, and all of that kind of falls into the category of like promotion and such too. So there are
Mm-hmm.
so many places where you can spend money on promotion. I think we probably agree that BookFunnel and like MailerLite are kind of important ones. But yeah, like you could really rack up costs. Although that is
Yeah.
not the place where I have racked up my most costs. Like,
So that was going to be my question to you, Sandy, because you
yeah.
asked me about like what the most important thing is if you're on a tight budget. So then my question is,
Like what have I
what do
spent the
you
most on?
consider the most frivolous yet successful thing that you've spent money on? So
Frivolous.
I'm definitely not talking about book covers because there's nothing frivolous about book covers, but you've certainly um, paid for a whole bunch of things that like I didn't even know existed and kind of was like, well, that's a weird $40 right there, but do you? So what do you think was the one that like you either had like the least amount of faith in that actually worked off, or that you just did on a lark and liked how it turned out.
Yeah, because like if I look at, okay, so I'm looking at my spreadsheet right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, like the stuff I spend the most money on is for sure the covers. Like that's
Yeah.
my biggest expense. Although, so I mean, I have more than one pen name, so I need more than one website. I have, um, yeah, no, okay,
There's got
typesetting.
to be something on there.
The typesetting. I actually do think that that's worthwhile. So
Which one?
I uh Adobe InDesign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it is frivolous. You do not need Adobe InDesign for anything. As an indie, you can like and so it's just to back up. So when you want to print your book, you can like create the print in Word. So like you could create a PDF using Word and like it would turn out okay. Like it wouldn't be terrible. It would be a nightmare in terms of formatting because Word is a nightmare, but you would be able to make it happen after many struggles. And I mean, most of us are already paying for our Microsoft Office, so like if you have it already, then I mean that might work for you. But if you want your book to look really professional on the inside, you need to typeset it, and to typeset you really need Adobe InDesign, which I'm trying to figure out where on my spreadsheet this is because it is so incredibly expensive.
It
It's
is.
it's $34 a month to have
Yeah, that's
that.
where
Yeah.
I can't fathom paying.
Oh
That's
yeah, because that's like 300 a year, which
yeah,
is
that's
like
three.
three solid covers, you
Yeah,
know. Um, but I do think that like at least for me in like the YA space, that's probably one of the few where I feel like that might matter to me.
yeah.
Um, I've got another one too.
Okay.
K-lytics. So
Yes, thank you for saying Kalytics.
yeah,
Yeah.
K-lytics is so expensive. I mean, it's not. You can get like a basic version, but the basic version doesn't really tell you enough. So like, if you,
Kalytics, am I correct that you pay for each like thing once?
I don't.
Or is it a monthly subscription?
It's it. They have some things I think that you can pay for. They might be shifting to that, probably because of people like me. Because I will pay for like 1 month and then I'll drop them and then I'll go back like 6 months later. Yeah,
Yes.
because so what you really
Oh, you know what
want.
it is that I'm mixing up Kalytics and KDP Rocket.
Yeah, KDP
I
Rocket
have
is
a
like a
habit of doing
one-time
it. I
thing.
feel like everybody kind of has a habit of doing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
KDP Rocket I think is totally not necessary, but K-lytics is really solid market research on like what's selling well on Amazon and what's trending. And like
Yes.
this is research in terms of like subgenres. So like there's nowhere else I can think of where you could so easily get information on like on whether romance, paranormal, gothic vampire books are selling better than romance, paranormal, gothic,
Yes.
psychic books. And I mean, Calyx gives you that information in depth, but to get that far, you have to have their elite membership, and like that's something like $97 a month. 97.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's,
So you buy it like once a year to get that like
yeah.
that info. And just so if you are wondering how exactly this is utilized, this is basically a situation where you are trying to figure out what to write to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if Sandy actually said the finer tunings of this, but basically it is a service that trolls Amazon. Not trolls.
Monitors, I think. Yeah.
Monitors. Yeah, I was just using the wrong word. Um, monitors Amazon. Yeah, I think troll is still the right word. It trolls it for data. It data mines. That's the term. It data
Yes.
mines Amazon. So it literally like breaks down like how many books are in this genre, how much money is spent in this genre, what is being searched, like all of that. It has all the data, and like you can like put stuff of your books in and like figure out where your books are in all of this. But so the application of this is to figure out what you're going to write next,
Mm-hmm.
and it's writing to market. If you've heard that term before, that's what this is. It is going to K-Lytics and finding what market is doing the strongest that you are comfortable writing in.
Yeah. So, like, if my paranormal angels do well, that will be because in October I was gonna write cute Christmas holiday romance, not demony romance, but just like contemporary holiday romance. And I had a I don't know, maybe a little panic moment where I thought I'm spending a lot of time on something and I'm not sure people are actually gonna like read it. So I sucked it up and purchased the month of October's K-Lytics, and then I went through that data.
Yeah,
It was
like,
hours that I
yeah,
spent on that to find out that actually I was right. Like what I was writing wouldn't have sold well. It was way too mainstream,
yeah.
and not only that, but I discovered that my first pen name is probably going to be difficult to sell too. So I totally switched. And again, like, and this could explain why my non copy edited book is doing better than anything else that I've ever
Because
done.
you wrote to market.
Right. So
Yeah,
even if it's I want to say I have 18 ratings on that at this point and like 16 reviews on Goodreads, but still like
yeah.
that is higher
Liz,
than anything.
you know where it's rated on Amazon within that category?
Oh, there's no way it's rated well yet because I have no sales. But
Oh, you haven't. Okay.
yeah, no, I'm getting like no sales at all, and I
You're
haven't put it
getting
up.
reads on it.
I have no interest on that book whatsoever. Like
Okay.
nobody, no one picks it
Yeah.
up, and I haven't. And the only people who know about it, as far as I know, are my subscribers who all got that book for free, right? So they have zero
Yeah.
reason. So until I let them know that there's a sequel, I don't foresee or advertise. I don't foresee
Yeah.
anybody buying it. But nevertheless, the people who have picked it up have liked it, and I think even on services like okay, so like Book Sirens is a place where I put my arc. I attribute the fact that Book Sirens took the book in the first place to
Oh,
it
it's the
being
genre.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a hot genre, so there would have been lots of readers for it. And then I want to say I've had 11 readers so far there, and like 9 have actually read the book and reviewed it. So I again almost for sure that's because it was
Yeah.
a to market genre. To the extent I had people on Booksprout pick it up, same thing. To the extent I was able to pick
Mm.
up a lot of subscribers, same thing. I'm so I would say that like $97 I spent on that K-Lytics. I mean if that's gold, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, that one.
And
That's
I don't
my
think it's something that you need to buy every. I don't know. Like I've read a lot of crazy things about what people do with K-Lytics, but I think it's something that you need to buy like once a year.
maybe even less than
You
that.
do it like I would say do it different times of year because obviously like holidays and seasons and everything change, but um I feel like we've all heard this thing that like, well, the market changes every 3 months. Okay, well, that's a little nuts. As somebody who just put out a book in 6 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
don't. Don't be looking for like what the trend is in 3 months. Look at what the trend is in a year. You're gonna drive yourself nuts
Yeah.
trying to write. And also, I mean, I feel like I don't know if K-Lytics actually tells you this, but series is where it's at, is where it's always at, where it's been at for years. And I don't think that's changing because of what reading habits are now. Obviously, like I think Sandy and I can both attest to in our lives that like series have not always been the thing, but they've been the thing for long enough
Yeah.
that we can say that they're going to be the thing for the far future. And of course, like if you're trying to write to market and that market you're relying on it changing every 3 months, you're never going to be able to actually get that series going. So don't be writing specifically to get like whatever that number one thing is. Um, Figure out what in that list speaks to you and just run with it. You pick up readers now, and even if it is a flooded market in a year or whatever, or if it's a dead market in a year, the readers you pick up now are still going to be reading it because they're on that series.
Well, and I mean, so I do think that the market changes. Kalytics does a really nice job of showing trends.
Yeah.
So like one month's worth of that gives you a ton of information. And to
Oh,
what
yeah.
you're saying, like the reality is like once you hit something that readers like, then you
You
don't
keep
need it
reading.
anymore, right? So
Yeah.
then you are the market that
Yeah.
people are reading. But like until then, I do think like if you're struggling and you're not finding like a book that you can sell or a book that people will pick up and read, then then yeah, like maybe 3 months from now you do need to look back and be like, what did I do wrong? Or 6 months. But I
Yeah.
for sure think that like once you're established, you don't need it, and I definitely wouldn't have been willing to pay for it more than twice this year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think I was more pushing the fact that like don't try to be writing something every 3 months unless
mm-hmm.
you're don't be
Don't
that
switch.
was-
Don't expect to have to switch 3 months from now because like
yes, exactly. I guess that was where again I went like in a weird way of trying to say that, but that's it. Like if it's not, if you write something and it doesn't work, don't immediately jump ship just because that first one didn't work.
yeah, and I mean to that like so that first pen name that I created, I wouldn't get rid of that pen name. I do expect that I'll have to work a little bit differently
Yeah.
on it. Okay, so here's a question for you, Chloe.
Okay.
So hacks. Are there any like great hacks that we should know about to save money? Like what are your top ones
Oh God.
that
I
like anybody
don't
could use?
I don't even know because I'm not like I'm sure I have some. But I feel like I've like already said what they I mean, so there are okay. So here is a good one. Which we've already brushed upon a whole bunch of times, but I've never explicitly stated. Um, use the free versions of the paid services.
Mm.
Um, like I said, I do pay for BookFunnel. I don't plan on paying for BookFunnel forever, partially because I don't plan on using it forever. Hopefully, I don't have to. But also because I'm just not, hopefully, I don't need to rely on Reader Magnets that much. Anyways, but for the most part, like there are all these services that have free limited versions like
Mm-hmm.
Book Sprouts and also like BookFunnel and Prolific Works. I have used Prolific Works multiple times for very specific reasons that were not building my newsletter. And so because of that, I was able to get away with using the free version of it. But again, just because it is the free version of it, don't think that you're going to be getting less of a product, or don't think that it's going to be that much better if you pay for it, which is two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
We're seeing that. I feel like we're seeing that pretty well with Book Sprouts now. That no matter like whether you pay for it or not, the turnout from it is not going to be amazing, and therefore it's probably not worth the like $10 a month or whatever it is. Because even if you put that investment into it, like what you're going to get for paying that $10 isn't going to be that much more than if you were using the free version of it.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair enough. Although you don't necessarily know that that's happening. Okay, so this is a useful hack, and I think that's worked well for us. So there are definitely things where like I'm gonna drop the expense next year because I know that they worked well for you, and like
Yeah.
you weren't paying for them the same way I was. But you don't know that if you don't have somebody else that you can
Right.
trade notes with.
That's one of the great
So
things about like what's going on with the two of us is
yeah,
that
yeah,
we
yeah.
can compare notes looking from two different angles at the same thing, and like we're kind of at the same pace right now that
Yeah.
we really can see the difference in what we do.
Oh, and that's like a huge difference. So and I mean some things you keep, right? Like so BookBrush. BookBrush is a really nice service that like costs about $100 a year, and it's like when you have it, you can use it to create like pretty demos and models of your books on like cute backgrounds. So like you can upload your book cover, and Book Brush will help you make like a 3D image of it and put it on something adorable. But it's a little clunky, it's a little new, and it's really not necessary. So like that's the
You
kind of
don't have
thing
an
where
alternative to that, right? That's free.
what?
You don't have an alternative to that. That's free, right?
Yeah, so Chloe
Yeah.
has no. I think that Book Brush is probably a little easier for me, but like your alternative is so good
Yeah.
for like the
And
two
that
or
is
three extra minutes.
it's
Yeah.
called so the website is DIYbookcovers.com. I've never actually explored the whole website. I just have it like on my hotbar. So I've never looked at the rest of the site, but like part of it is 3D mockups. And literally the website that I go to directly is DIYbookcovers.com/3D mockups. I would assume if you go to DIY book covers, you can find it pretty easily. But it creates a 3D, like whether you want it on a book or on a e-reader, hardcover, paperback. If you want a spread of it on a hardcover and a paperback and a Kindle, however you want it laid out, they've got like 20 different options. You just upload your book cover, and then they will give it to you as either a JPEG or a ping. And you absolutely always want it as a ping because it is transparent. So you can put it on any cute background you want.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the kind of thing. Now, okay, so here's one. I
Also, Canva. Canva is great if you have no budget.
yeah, Canva is good.
I don't use it for book covers, but I use it for all of my social media, like my bars, my, what's the right term for that? Like cover, what's the term? So like my Facebook, like main page thingy, that
Oh,
bar. I'm sorry.
your like header thing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
headers is exactly the word that I'm looking for. It's what I use to design all of my headers.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it is a nice sort of
yeah.
thing.
I
I
sorry,
was
keep
a
going. I thought you were going to say that.
No,
Yeah.
so it's funny. I was about to say that like one of the things I think that I've purchased that I do actually recommend is Blasty. Then I tried to like go to it on my computer, and right now I'm getting a like you cannot look at this kind of error. So
Like
who knows what's
it's a
happened with
word.
yeah, I don't maybe it's been canceled. Maybe Blasty is over.
Is it Blasty.com?
Yeah. Blasty's
Oh yeah. What was Blasty?
that's annoying. So Blasty was supposed to be something that would like help keep pirates from getting to your stuff.
Yes.
But if it is now disabled, then I feel like I spent a lot of money for something that I can't have.
Yeah. I wonder.
That's annoying.
I am curious about this now, so I'm going to go on a little journey while we continue our conversation. Um, so I will say, in defense of that one as well, that it is. Oh, I'm sorry. I went to Twitter and I got sidetracked. Have you heard about the Hallmark Channel drama?
No.
Okay, we'll talk about it afterward. It just RWA put out a statement about it. But yeah, so I will agree that it's really difficult to keep yourself from getting pirated. And it is good to have a service that is watching out for it because it's really hard to do anything about it yourself.
Right. But
The services like where you find your stuff being pirated, those places know exactly what they are,
yeah.
so they don't care about you.
Yeah.
Um, it's not like you're usually it's not. I mean, it does happen, but usually you're not being pirated on Amazon where they're like, "Oh my God, we need to stop this." Normally, you're literally on a pirated book site where they make all of their money off of having pirated books. they're not going to do anything for you unless you um, basically have some sort of illegal action taken.
Yeah.
So having a service that takes care of it is nice. But also the flip side of that is it's so hard to do that a lot of authors, both indie and traditional, and to that end, publishing houses have said, we're going to do what we can about this, but we're not going to drive ourselves crazy over it because it just can't be stopped. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like what I heard that stuck with me the most um, about like why to brush it off is one author who said it might have been Kevin J. Anderson. I don't remember who it was. It was somebody, one of the big names that I saw at Con recently, at Dragon Con. But he said this isn't somebody like the people who are reading my books on a free site are not the people who are going to be buying my books anyway. So why do I care if they're reading it for free or not? I was never going to make money off of them. If this book is removed from this site, I will still not make money off of them.
Yeah, and okay, so good news for anybody who was considering this and worried that maybe it would be an expense. Blasty's apparently been shut down for a month, but they're still charging
Oh,
people.
what? I
Yeah,
went to Twitter and I hadn't gone any further than that because I
yeah.
went on that little thing.
But I think with that, I think we got to end our show for the day.
Yeah,
So
that was
hopefully
a
that
good,
was a yeah, that was fun, right?
yeah.
So
That was a different
cathartic.
thing. This is what our podcast is going to end up being, probably. Eventually, we'll one day have a podcast.
In like
Which will probably be like
January,
more successful than these word sprint things.
probably.
We're still going to keep doing this though, because we do it for our own selves.
Yes.
And if you want to tune in, that's great. But we're hoping one day to have a podcast going, and that'll actually be like brass tacks.
Yeah, no, seriously, I think
Yeah.
that'll be good. So okay, so thanks for joining us, and I guess we'll be back
Yeah.
next week with more like 2019 wrap up stuff of some
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
kind.
still have a little bit of time left in this month.
We have
Yeah.
like 2 weeks. Yeah. So
Yeah.
all right.
Great, cool.
So bye
Bye,
everybody.
guys.